Welcome back. It is halfway through both the day and this series. Fun, which is always fun. As TSM Academy find themselves up against DIGA QNTM Academy Crumbs. And in a game that we thought was going to be a Dignitas game at some point, very rapidly turned on its head.
Yeah, it really did. It was a good start from Acadian and Lorlo. These two teaming up, getting a big advantage from the Lee Sin and the Gnar, but it just did not hold when it came to the team fights. When it was a 5v5, TSM just looked like they were on a completely different level. This fight was where Soligo just got deleted, right? Gets punted over, stunned, then Wukong knocked up into the equalizer. It's just not a fun time when you are an immobile champion dealing with these kinds of champions. So I think that Dignitas, it was a valiant attempt, but they need to go back to the draft and play a little bit more of what is just making rounds across the globe. There's a reason why these champions and these strategies are so prized today.
All right, let's fight. Here you can see, I mean, TSM just team fought so well. I think you said it at the end of this game, Crumbs, where it was like TSM just took 3 team fights and the game was over. And I think this was maybe the last one, actually. Yeah, I think it was. Honsa completing the ace here under the tower, diving in onto poor Soligo. And TSM were able to finish things off shortly after that. I told you, this was the 3rd team fight. See, I knew I had it right. Even though KD got the dragon, it just didn't matter.
Yeah, look at the equalizer here that Hyper actually lays down. It's going to catch JJ and Spawn, actually forces Spawn to move away from the ledge so he can't damage anybody over the wall. Was really good placement that allowed the tanks to just do so much damage without taking any in return. It is a miserable time if you are playing Immobile right now. We heard it from Copy, right? We heard it from him. The reason why mages are struggling right now is just the itemization. Not that good. Doesn't shine as much as it does for the bruisers, because single item on the mage, and maybe what? The Andres, Luden Zeka, okay, a little bit of damage. Single item for a bruiser, a stride breaker, a gore drinker. There is some major playmaking available when you have just a single item spike in a bruiser versus a mage.
I mean, Gale Force too, right? For the other AD mids that are a bit more aggressive and a bit more fragile, not quite bruisers. So obviously, like things like your ADs. It's interesting, right? Like I think mage itemization has always been something that is kind of tricky, but finding a unique identity without like pumping the numbers up too hard can always be kind of tough. Especially because a lot of mages, like typically, it's funny, right? Typically, the trade-off is that mages have like a combination of burst and crowd control. So giving them a lot of like other ways to get agency feels kind of scary, right? Because they already do a lot of damage quickly, and they already crowd control you a lot. So I don't know if you want to give like a mage dash item, because then Oriana's like yeeting in shockwaves from like half a screen away. But then you come to something like Set, and he's like stride breaking on people, flash suplexing them in, face breaking people. Like they get to do some of that stuff. And sure, they're not as directly powerful up front as far as damage goes, but when your Rumble is running in and spitting flames on everyone and popping down equalizers. Hyper, by the way, played an amazing Rumble game. I think even though he did have some moments of like being in the wrong place and overextending a little bit, and they racked up quite a few deaths in that game, he did get early kills, and his team fighting ultimates especially were incredible. I feel like the 3 team fights we saw, Crumbs, where TSM were able to win back to back to back and just take the Nexus, I feel like everyone was either started with or had very quickly after it started a perfectly placed equalizer to kind of really seal it.
It was really well timed with the rest of the setup too, whether it was the knockups from the solo lanes or even the Nautilus. The Rumble placement was more than enough to make up for any prior mistakes getting caught out, because at the end of the day, that's why you pick the champions. It's to layer the CC, the damage on these major carries, and he pulled it off exactly where he needed to. So just showing that the teams are getting better at playing around the Rumble, around the equalizer, and making sure that the value from this pick is not entirely lost. That the early game, yes, you can get gold, but the equalizer drives it home. We saw that from him, and I think that's also why the mages are struggling. And to pull it back to that conversation, it's that the mages in the jungle are really powerful, just the likes of the Rumble and even the ones like the Fiddlesticks and the Diana, even the ones that are maybe less seen, but they offer so much value that you don't want to undermine it by having a mid lane mage that now makes it so much easier to itemize magic resistance and cut their damage.
Yeah, I'm curious. I wonder if there's like a. I mean, I guess there aren't that many junglers with a lot of CC. Like Lee Sin is kind of one of the only ones. I guess you could play set jungle if you really wanted to. Maybe it's not about like, oh, like, obviously I think mages in general aren't maybe quite as powerful. I think control mages especially, who have been a staple of competitive for a very long time. It's tough, right? When like, this big anchoring point in mid lane suddenly has been probably the largest shift away from that style in the game's history, right? So now all these players that have all these games and all these years on these champions are like, oh, I have to learn Set? What is this champion, right? I have to learn Renekton. What is this champion? Maybe Akali. It's a little bit different, right? Even though she's an AP champion, she's obviously more of an assassin. Yone, right? A champion we don't see as often, but, is very different from all those champions as well. But I think other mages might be viable. I'm personally just like, I love the Riftmaker champions, right? If everyone's on the Divine Sunderer train, right, the items like super good and Gore Drinker and those kind of things, surely there has to be more Riftmaker champions than Gwen. Like, I'm just waiting for Vladimir's glorious return comes. I know I've said this to you before already, but I'd like the people to know that I want Vladimir back in the meta. And I think if you have the right CC, you can open up space for Vlad like you would a Rumble, right? And maybe there's something there. So there's obviously a lot more to explore than you can reasonably, find in practice week on week. But it is cool to see so many teams and so many picks be opened up, again, especially in the top side of the meta between the jungle and the two solo laners. One of the coolest metas, I think, in League for a while. Definitely one I'm enjoying a lot playing here. But to focus back on our series now, the draft will be coming up in just a few short moments. Of course, when we have that, we'll put it on your screen. Don't worry, we're not hiding anything from you. Do you think Dignitas? People often,
we're hiding.
You gotta be careful. Imagine we're just like not even showing the stuff people want to see.
That'd be fun if we had that kind of power. We're watching it ourselves and just talking to you about it, about other random things, just so we can enjoy it now.
This has happened. So this is, everyone, like we're on screen, Crumps, right? We're the people know, whether the visible faces, and everyone's like, "Come on, move it along. What's going on?" I'm like, "We don't do anything, okay? We're waiting too, just like you. It's coming. Don't worry about it. They're working on it. What do you think we're doing?" Yeah. Anyway,
we're waiting, just like you.
Exactly. What do you think Dig are going to do in this game? Because it is cool that they get to adapt, right? They get to play a second game, regardless of the result of the first one. They can, of course, play for the draw and get a couple points here. Do you think they're gonna pick a bit more on the current style, or do you think they'll stick with their game plan here? Because clearly the Lee Sin plus something else early game worked, but maybe Dig should shuffle some of the other pieces around.
I think they're gonna switch it up. They've already shown that they can include newer meta picks like the Karma and the Xin. They easily played that yesterday. They had a good win with the Rumble. Now the Lee Sin was fine as well. I think Akaden's been having some solid games, but it is the bottom lane, it is the mid lane control mage that you have to pick around. And if they don't, then I'm going to start to think that maybe this is exactly why the change happened between Soligo and Yasui, where the main squad wanted a little bit more flexibility with the mid lane role to be able to prioritize these bruisers. And if Soligo continues to play control mages, then it just shows me that the main team feels like the meta should resemble more of what TSM just played. If Soligo isn't playing that, well, who is? Yasui is, and let's go for that. So I think this is actually a good opportunity for the team as a whole to change things up, but also for Soligo to show that he can play these champions. He's done well on the likes of Akali. He can play the control mages, even if they're not in the strongest form in the meta right now. But I just don't see how he won't be able to execute on these other bruisers. They're fairly straightforward when you're dealing with melee versus melee matchups half the time.
All right, well, here's the draft. I did say we'd bring it to you, and here it is. Dig on the blue side, though, most notably. So they have swapped over TSM Academy, going to be over on the red. So TSM's first pick last game was Rumble. Curious to see if there's similar priority there for Dig, or in general, what are their priorities on the blue side, right? That is the advantage. You do get first pick out of this first ban phase, as Set, Nocturne, Tahm Kench, and Lucian have all been banned.
Well, we now will see a new mid laner win the game, which is exciting to see how this actually plays out. It might just be Lee Sin in the mid lane again, though. I think that Dignitas QNTM really likes that pick and would really benefit them with their flexibility, since Akaden had a strong showing on it. However, I think it really opens up TSM to get whatever they want as a two-time combo. The Rumble Nautilus has proven to be really devastating many times before. Here, they could just snatch it up if Dignitas wants to trade for it, and every team is happy to just give you a run back of what's already worked for them. Lulu is up, though. That is the one caveat that this is different than in the previous draft, so there is an option to go with a little bit more of a defensive style, protecting a carrier, just having Lulu in the mid lane.
Yeah, I think she was up last draft as well. Neither team wanted to pick her. To be fair, they first picked Rumble and Lee Sin on either side, and Lulu doesn't particularly pair well with those champions, so looks like we're instead going to have Lee Sin first picked once again for Dig. I'm honestly expecting that to be a Cadian's pick, but as you mentioned, there is flexibility there. And Ezreal is a contentious first pick. Definitely can find some problems with how many champions are able to dive and chase him and CC him, which is very rare for Ezreal to feel threatened, right, by any sort of metagame. But I do like the hypers going back to the Rumble here. And we have even seen Ezreal, you mentioned Pretty played it yesterday, in mid lane crumbs on the IMT side. So there is possibilities to move this Ezreal around. And I think especially if you want to play double AD carry, Ezreal is really nice in those kind of comps. As Akali was left open, I forgot about that. Akali, Kalista, the next two picks for Dig.
With Lee Sin as well, so big difference. This is now the change I wanted to see. So
now I'm scared for Ezreal's life.
Right? I don't know. Now, because there's a Nautilus coming, or a Leona, or something to layer these guys and make that dive really dangerous. So Ezreal, I mean, when the season started, I thought that Ezreal was actually going to be much stronger than he currently was. Divine Thunder changes, the fact that he could build Frozen Heart, but it seems like he just takes too long to get to that stage where he's that powerful. They're diving so effectively. There's multiple members just jumping him every time. And if he's not able to peel himself with as great a distance as a pick like the Kai'Sa, who not only has the ultimate, but then stealth to stay alive, then his Arcane Shift kind of pales in comparison as a way to stay alive.
Yeah, Kali is just so good against Ezreal and Rumbles. So we'll see how TSM respond to the pick. They have taken Renekton here in the next phase as their final pick, actually, of phase number 1. Thresh Band, Jace Band, and TSM. Wonder if they'll work on more. Maybe ban Leona, take Nautilus, or the other way around. Kalista obviously has plenty of good pairings for herself, but see what TSM want to kind of load up here. I imagine they're going to target supports given their position in this draft, but instead they're actually going to ban Lolo's Gnar. So Haunter, not too big a fan of what was happening there in the top lane.
So they are already saying that they think it is Acadian's Lee Sin, which, like you said, I think they're right. I think he would be happy to take that pick again, especially into the Rumble matchup. But the Thresh Band is most interesting because they're already saying that we think this bot lane is going to be really tough. The Kalista into Ezreal matchup often benefits the Kalista. They don't want to have to deal with an even stronger lane with the Thresh. So trying to split that apart and make sure that the bot lane stays safe seems to be the direction in which they're going. And I think Dignitas still has the option, though, of picking a strong 2v2 to try to just gain an advantage from that lane, because you do want to have Kalista get ahead. This is not a pick you just want to be farming with and then team fighting. You want to win the lane. You want to transition your support into team fights and then just steamroll through fights through lifesteal.
All right, well, Volibear pick, that's going to be top lane there for Lolo. Maybe up against Renekton, but there is, of course, flexibility there for TSM. Curious what the support pick is there, because Leona can be kind of tough to crack. Galio is cool. Get a little bit of Galio around these parts in general, but yeah, he's going to be locked in there for Dig.
That is a pretty good support. You can actually Fates call him into a taunt, which can be really nasty as a way to engage. So there's some options here from Dignitas. This looks like a bit of a more new style composition. We knew they had it available, and it actually will go really well with Soligo here. Acadian can get some value out of it, but I usually like to see the Akali just diving in, and then Galio comes in from the skies on top of the Shroud where everybody's crowding around, and so it doesn't necessarily lock you down, but if you're already close to Akali trying to find her, then by the time you realize Galio's coming from the skies, you're gonna get knocked up.
Yeah, I like this a lot. Actually, really cool comp. Again, like Akali's just one of those champions that really opens up certain comps. And again, I'm very scared for the lives of this Ezreal and this Rumble. Even the Viego, honestly, not all that tanky, especially early on. So Soligo's going to have a wealth of targets to try and initiate on. Also of note, I guess it's not that interesting, but like Viego feels pretty universally good into most of the melee champions. but is going to be up against Lee Sin. They'll take Renekton into Akali instead. I think Akali's worst matchup is Lee Sin. The Dignitas already kind of got the advantage by getting Lee Sin and Akali on the same team. It's one of the reasons they're so good together. Also, they're pretty good against each other. But we'll see how this works out. Siligo's going to have a pretty big game here on Akali, I think. And Acadian also is actually on the volibear. That's the thing I didn't actually note. It isn't going to be Acadian's Lee Sin, so we were wrong, Crumbs.
Yeah, interesting there. I guess they felt like the matchup of the volibear when the Viego was seen wasn't going to be that good. And Lorlo has been fine on the Lee Sin as well, so I think that this ends up working out. It's not like they're going to have a worse game just from shifting away these champions. It's part of the meta. You got to be able to play it. You got to be able to be flexible around these. So we'll see if Acadian and Lorlo's swap actually makes sense, because I have faith that they'll be able to pull it off, but we're going to need to see them get these early leads once again, though, because TSM with the Leona and the Rumble are still going to have a devastating team fight like we saw them last game.
All right, Crumbs, we'll have a fairly important question.
Okay.
Do you think Hyper should have changed Rumble skins?
He is currently Galaxy Rumble, right?
Yeah, he had the other skin before. I don't know what the skin's actually called. It was pretty cool. But this is like some new school.
Yeah, I think he really should
chroma
have.
action. Because he was like kind of the junkier, like metallic one before, right? I think it's maybe like a. I don't remember, man. Rumble Skinlands have really great names, so it's hard to remember them all. But in general, do you like when players change skins between games when they take the same champ? Because I always find it interesting, right? I would assume players would have a skin preference, right? They played on this, they know the animations, the feel, the VFX, the sound, and they would stick to that. But players, more often than I would expect personally, do change up their skins.
It gives me a different feel if I ran it down or lost one game on a certain skin and I want to change my attitude about it, right? I'll switch it up and just try something new. So maybe Hyper felt like he had a really good game on it and kept it. I still think, though, the skin is wrong, just because when you're playing Rumble, the only right answer is Rumble in the jungle.
In the jungle.
Of course.
You know what? The Pineapples agree. As Honsa and Lolo dueling here in the top side of the map. Honsa feeling pretty good in the early stages. Again, Viego's Q is real long range. So in any sort of melee battle, you just hit him with it, just poke him. Takeover and Saligo also doing battle. Takeover actually clearly very much understands this matchup. At least early on is trying to abuse Akali as much as he can. This is also like one of Akali's general problems. She is pretty no good in lane. Just basically has to farm and try and hold the wave at a sensible place. Of course, unlocks a lot more options for herself when she hits level 6, so Takeover using his early advantage as well. Speaking of, Kalista and Galio off to the races. Exactly where they want to be, shoving into the enemy tower, threatening taunts there. Looking good for that early Kalista pick there out of spawn.
And they build a big wave that will actually allow them to help for the scuttle if any action were to happen down there. And although the junglers did path in opposite ways, just building the habit and making sure that your waves are shoving when the jungler wants to go for that objective makes it so that you can group up like they're currently doing. To make sure that this crab is secured and that is playing for your jungler, allowing him to get the objectives that he needs at the pace that is necessary to keep up with the likes of a Rumble. That's going to be a bit faster at farming than Volibear.
Getting in a walk-in now. Trying to find some camps if there are none to take. As we know, it does get some vision down there. Always nice. As the Krug cycle continues there, Hyper going to take those out for, I believe, the second time. Acadian also fancying a dive feed. Volibear very good at ganking, don't forget, especially at 6, but even pre-6, feeling pretty good. Cody going to be the target. There's the stun, there's the taunt. See you later, Cody. It's first blood to spawn.
Really nice gank there, and they get away with their lives. I love the flash commitment from multiple members there, just making sure that Cody has no way out. Tons of CC to immediately layer the volley stun into taunt into knockup, and there is just no way out. Luckily for Cody, he does have money for a Sheen on this purchase, so it's not a doomed first buy. But still, giving over a kill away to Kalista is exactly what TS or Dignitas wants. Getting Kalista ahead. He got it. I think he got it. Didn't get it?
I think he might have. We cut away, but he was trying so hard, your son was, to freeze that wave to make sure the cannon didn't get, and then it went rogue and walked back into tower range. But I think Cody got it, so good job from your son. I believe to correctly freeze the big minion and give it over to, at that time, respawning Cody. But Cody's back. He's feeling good. He's got the Sheen, like you said, as well. Watch us diving in. I mean, just what do you do as Ezreal? There's nothing.
This is what that early trade did for the Dignitas bot lane, right? Flash into Tom. Leona can't protect you from this.
Nope.
Right? There's nothing she can do to keep you alive. Only a pick like a Tahm Kench could actually keep you away by just cuddling you in his womb and making sure that all danger is shielded from you.
All right, well, no Tahm Kench's game. He gets banned a lot. Maybe that's the reason why. Hyper still on the offense here. Pretty good CS lead for the jungle, actually. Approaching 6, getting not that close. Still 3/4 of a level to go. Is at least trying to invade with the Leona, right? Get aggressive here as Takeover and Saliga are also trading blows back and forth.
He already has like an item he's going to be very happy with in this lane, though, with the Seeker's Arm Guard. Okay, Cody, you got to be careful with these trades.
Oh, what a taunt. Finds it as well, but now the follow-up, not there. TP in. The bait is in for TSM. Here comes Renekton. Pops the ulti. JJ, see you later. No flash. Stunned up, ignited, and dead. Takeover. Gonna grab that one.
It was a bait through and through. TSM has the TP from Takeover, who's been shoving the mid lane. Hyper is collecting experience down there, so nothing is lost. And that's a nice way to actually commit on the bot lane now that JJ had lost his flash from the earlier gank attempt. So that looks good from TSM, just answering back, knowing what they can use to fight back against the members that have already proven to be playing very aggressive on Dignitas.
Hyper maybe lining up a dive as well. Oh, does get spotted. Nice work there from Lolo to see that one. So, gonna have to back away. And as a result, the pressure TSM's jungle in the top half of the map is gonna mean a dragon here for Acadian. Definitely helped by the mid and bot lane pressure as well. So first straight goes to Dig. Feeling pretty good about how this game is going. Nice and easy here in this early game. One apiece, gold is even, but a dragon up for Dig is a good start.
It'll still come down to the team fights like it did last game, but I have much more faith in their draft this time around. And I think Soligo on the Akali, while he has been quiet in this early game, that's the pick I'm always looking at. Your Akali has to deliver. He's done it many times before, but here, when he gets to just farm and hit his item spikes, you can still count on him to be able to execute on it. He had a legendary game, I believe, in under 15 minutes. He already was legendary yesterday, so I think that just being able to have the items and not necessarily the kills is going to be enough for him to deliver some strong team fights.
Yeah, Carly's not scary until, she eats your AD carry and he explodes and wins the team fight instantly. Right? It's tough stuff. Oh, speaking of Hyper, kick around Lolo. Looking to find the solo kill. Hyper with a very fancy flash past the enemy Grump. He's going to have to get himself out of there, but Haunter will escort him out safely. A bit dicey, but Hyper does get away.
How he gets away from that one will be a mystery to be solved, though, because with the kick deeper into the jungle, it felt like Lorlo should have had the angle, but the Gromp blocking the angle for the Q means that there's never a way to chase. Just gets to flash and waddle away out of there, while TSM gets to get a plate in the bot side. Come on, get the plate. There you go. Get the plate in the bot side. The Herald is traded.
One is back, and Quiver done alongside the Berserker Greaves. We'll see what Cody's cashing in the cash for. It is Phage completed. Acadian with the Rift Herald. Looking to drop it top perhaps, or at least show some pressure here, as Haunter has been pushing pretty relentlessly, up about 15 CS on Lolo right now, but the wave is pushing in the wrong direction for a gank, but the right direction for a Rift Herald. That is indeed where Dig will want to go, but Acadian is pathing back towards his blue side jungle, so we're going to have to wait on the answer to where does the Rift Herald get dropped. There's plenty of time to get those plates, so we'll keep an eye out for later. Acadian is in no rush to get that gold.
No rush, but a bit of hesitation there. I'm moving back and forth into the river, and here's where I'll get you with some League of Legends quotes that actually are very relevant to that. Akali has a quote: "Hesitation is the seed of defeat." And I cannot agree more, because that pathing just back and forth does lose you a few seconds worth of time, where you could have been doing camps, where you could be rotating over to make it to a play before the enemy. Pathing down to the bot side when there is a Rumble and Renekton interested in this could have been the difference maker in having this camp completed and maybe ready to fight on a different angle. We'll see if it actually backfires onto Dignitas. Those are just the minor areas that as a jungler, you're constantly looking to shore up. No time wasted between moving from camp to lane to objective. It's got to be one seamless transition.
All right, well, Drake up in a minute 45. Definitely kind of waiting for the first big moment of the game. TSM feeling pretty comfortable with the pace, it seems like. Both teams actually just pretty deliberate here in this early game. Wanting to make too many missteps. Lolo doing out that wave, nice and easy. Has the Iron Spike whip now, so pretty straightforward, especially with 4 levels in the Tempest already. Everyone will be available for this dragon. They do want to walk down for it. Actually, Lolo doesn't have TP. I take it back. He's going to have to waddle down if he does indeed want to go for it. And I think, again, we are waiting for Sakali to have a moment. And obviously, Sligo needs people other than the mid laner constantly pushing her in to fight. I think Sligo going to be happy for any sort of potential dragon scuffle that could occur. As TSM are overloading topside right now, looking to dive onto Paul Lolo.
4 people, and he still hasn't backed up, but I think he'll be fine, though. They do spot your son here, so Lorlo gets to really back off, although JJ is following, and Sligo is here, so they might just start the fight now.
Lolo went back, but the TP's in. Hornsuck going to get aggressed on. Flash kick there for Lolo. Now Sligo in. Oh, this is where he gets all the kills. Sligo looking for them. Ultis once, he's in, gets one. Now Sligo dashes out, and now the Galio ulti actually going to move him in as Hyper. He's able to take down Lolo. But JJ going to have to flash out there. The ulti a touch too late to save the teammates, and TSM keep out another dive, but don't go for it. His bot side. Herald was dropped, and Spawn does get that tower.
Dignitas making plays across the map, getting that turret in the bot side. That's the first one of the game. And then Volibear not only gets to shove mid lane, but also is looking to counter. There's still 2 members, and they just saw Renekton in the mid lane. If JJ can get a taunt.
The scanny. Oh, and he's left alone. Saligo's going to get 2 kills. Of course he is.
Oh, giving a free kill over. But, oh, okay. They get something in return.
All right, Horns is going off. Now he's a Callista. Ooh, this is cool. Can take the dragon with the rend. Quick, yeah. Keep attacking.
Oh, that might be a pretty fun interaction that we see as Callista makes her way back onto the meta. Turn it back into Callista. We want to see you rend the dragon.
Well, enough to solo it at least. They want to have a little shield bow berserker greave combo to help him out. He gets Callista's items, chat. Don't freak out. That's not what he's building. He's got Divine Thunder, of course. Items very good. But Saligo, it's funny, we said it, we're like, yeah, kind of just needs like a bigger fight so we can, start impacting the game, and wouldn't you know it, already 2 kills.
Just like the solo queue games, right? You just say, do not feed the Akali, please, guys.
Next
You call
minute.
all the pings. You call the pings, you track the jungler, you type it in the chat, you ward for it. You can do everything in the world to protect your team from falling prey to the assassins in the game, but somehow your team always dies to it. And then you rage inside and you're like, I'm doing everything I can. I don't understand. Neither do we. We just talk about it.
Yep, exactly. It's beyond understanding at this point. It's all about Hyper in the top side. Good flash. Gets out from JJ's taunt. Equalizer back down. Takeover's here, but this is a 2v3 on the TSM side. Fate's call. Ezreal ulti in. Acadian eating way too much damage, and JJ has to pop himself back out to try and save the teammates, but will he die in the process? Hyper, bitten hot fire, is going to take down Galio.
Good collapse out of TSM, and the Renekton Rumble combination right now is really powerful. That's already a Gorge Rinker on takeover, so they have to back away from him anytime they see him. Maybe they can get a plate here, though, if they attack a little bit quicker. One more. Just barely missed out on it, so not going to be able to get that extra gold, but they still dominate this top side of the map. Now your son gets to roam over, and they'll fight over for the blue buff. Looks like we're going to have another altercation for this objective as Galio is making his way over.
Hyper starting up the buff. Does have smite, so you can probably just take this one here, but JJ again finding the taunt, gets one, smites down, gets the blue for Hyper, but here comes Saligo once again. In the shroud they go. Saligo looking for the kill. Does find it nice and easy there. As topside trouble there for takeover. Does get killed by Lolo and Spawn. So Dignitas on 2 different lanes get 2 different kills.
TSM is not respecting that Dignitas just retreated, that they're gonna be able to respawn faster and attack them at their own jungle. TSM had just made a play. They got a kill. They got Dignitas to retreat. They needed to know that Dignitas was going to make it with full resources for that fight. They overstayed, and then they paid dearly for it. It feels so much worse when you're giving gold over to a competent Akali. She's now 3-0. She's going to have the Riftmaker on her next purchase. That is not where you want to be at this stage. Yes, you've got some members on the Mythic completed, but Akali with a Galio to back her up is going to be way more deadly than they're used to.
Yeah, Spawn took the top outer tower as well. In the back of that play, 6 stacks on the Dark Seal for the Akali. Dignitas up, not quite 2,000 gold, but they're getting there. It's definitely a scary time on the TSM side. Divine Thunders are done though, Gore Drinker done as well. Rocket Belt not quite there yet for Hyper, but he's going to make his way over. Riftmaker, though, as you said, Crumbs is now finished for Soligo. So that first little dip into the power bucket that is Akali with items starting to open up as looks like Soligo is going to go visit Takeover in the top lane. The Takeover does successfully get TSM's first tower of this game.
You mentioned what champions could make use of Riftmaker right now, and the one that I'd like to see attempted would be Mordekaiser. I think he gets a lot of value from that item. It works so well with him. And, well, when everyone's melee and trying to dive into you and wants to 5v5, who better at disrupting all of that than Mord? So I think that that's a pick that can be a sleeper right now if there would be a good Mordekaiser out there. But oftentimes, if he falls behind, then it's really lights out for him. The Quicksilver Sash is even worse for him than it is for Skarner, so the Mordekaiser tax goes a longer ways than anyone else's.
Yep, it's truly a terrible time as Mord when you ult someone and they good that's out of it. That's Dig. Shoving through mid now, looking to try and finish off that final tower. They do have a second Herald as well. Acadian has gotten both Rift Heralds this game. Dragon also up in 20 seconds, so Dignitas trying to make sure they decide on their objective. Soligo top side, but he does have TP, so does Takeover, but going to be a pretty close 1v1 if they do want to go for the fight, but might be looking at the TP angles instead. But Soligo is really threatening on the side lane in general. You can see also dipping into fog now. Dignitas are going to move their way back into mid to make sure they have pressure there. Acadian might even pop the Herald down now and then go to the Drake. It's kind of a classic of the Rift Herald, and indeed they will drop it and see you later. Off they go.
TSM is in no good position to take this fight. Your son is basing, so they're just happy to give this up, defend the Rift Herald, and look for another opportunity to take the fight. So, TSM just making sure that their champions have the right items. I think for the next fight, we'll hit a 2-item power spike, which should benefit the Ezreal more than anyone else. But in the meantime, though, Dignitas is still interested in making the most out of the current advantage they have. Just invading the jungle, denying these camps, making sure that they have full vision of TSM and anything they want to try against their pressing advantage.
Yep, easily take that blue buff away, holding control of Dig's jungle. As you said, though, it is only the second dragon for Dig, the third overall in the game, so no rush. All right, there's not going to be any quick soul, even though it is an Ocean Soul. TSM, I feel like we saw this from the last game, right, where they fell a couple thousand gold behind, but they felt confident in their team fighting, in their 5v5. Definitely this game, not nearly as obvious a composition to play, right? You know, there's not the same Wukong Rumble combo you can really lean on. But TSM definitely do feel like a team that are happy to play a bit slower. And certainly are going to have to bring that to bear in this game, given the disadvantage. And for Dig, I just wonder, when is the moment where they just decide we're taking, a big fight and really opening up the game? Because even though they're doing well right now, and they can certainly play controlled here through this mid-game, can't leave the enemy team alone for too long, right? Perhaps it's that first Dragon Soul, perhaps it'll be the first Baron. Baron will be up available in 40 seconds for the first time this game. We have 2 items there for Spawn. We're working on 2 items for Soligo. Acadians finishes Mythic. And so it's Hyper actually went for Night Harvester for this game of note instead of the Rocket Belt. But everyone's just chilling out, except JJ, who's getting rumbled, but he's fine. He's a Galio.
I think what's holding Dig back is that... Oh, wait a minute.
Nothing's holding your son back. Dig ulti out of the Galio. TP there from the long side. It's 2 of them. Takeover and Haunts are ready to go. Spawn the target. TSM, they found the angle once again. And now JJ going to be left for dead. Into Zonius he goes. Stasis not enough to save him though as Hyper collects it. And would you look at that? Baron's up in 2 seconds.
Wow, the timing of that one is phenomenal. Well, Dig now have the choice. Do they give this objective or try to 3v5 it? It would be bonkers if they can pull this off. There's still a lot of power on TSM, but there are no ultimates. Let's see what they prioritize. Akaadian can go for a steal. He's got ultimate, he's got flash. Looks like that's what they'll go for.
Yep. No Callisto on TSM side, of course. They're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way, and there's definitely a threat of a steal. Akaadian could make his way in. It's getting low. Lolo again going to get a little bit of vision there with the Q, but TSM are being pretty patient here. And now they go in. They're not going to get it. Akaadian jumps in, tries to get the steal. TSM instead. They're going to shut that down, but Taligo's diving in. He's going to get at least one kill here, surely. Taligo does find one. No, it's Lee Sin to get to it. Now Taligo's looking to pop off and take the rest of the fight over. 3v1 right now, but now JJ's coming in with a taunt. He doesn't get it. It's Viego that's able to find the kill. And now he's Akali, and Haunter is getting in the great interrupt there for JJ. And the Shroud is down, and Haunter, oh, he ultied out of the Shroud. That was so sick. And now JJ's going to be chased down by his own Callista. As Haunter, oh, just ulties in, not even interested. Going to dodge the taunt out, and Haunter looking real good on this Viego. Going to take out JJ in the end, as TSM get just about everything.
That was just filthy. The Viego as an Akali with the Shroud. This guy isn't just invulnerable, untargetable. He's now invisible? Like, okay, he's got it all. But TSM also get the Baron as a result of that. They only lose a few members. They still have most with the Baron. And the attempt was a bit too slow. Akaadian jumped before 2,000, pardon, at 1,500 HP, and that was enough for TSM to burst it down. The Smite is now dealing 1,000, and so there's really not an opportunity for him to steal it without being there at around 2k. He has to be a bit sooner, knowing that the AoE from TSM would also hurt that objective. Then TSM is to clean up the crew as they try to salvage the rest. This Viego possessing an Akali might be one of my favorites, because he also had the E, which he landed onto the Callista.
Yeah, it was actually a really nice Fates Cult interrupt by JJ to prevent like instant death from happening, but Haunter knew all the tricks. Nice little dodge there for JJ, trying it out, but Haunter had it more than ready. And you know what? You know, we talk about Silas, right? Looking for the good ultis to steal. You know, when you're Viego, what are the good normal abilities to steal? And Akali E Crumbs, pretty good ability, as it turns out, especially when you get the enemy items. Saligo, of course, before that play, didn't have any deaths. Now full 1-on-1 on the Akali. Still in position to carry, but TSM have once again, Crumbs, just flipped the game on its head. They were losing, and now they're not. And somehow, this is the TSM Academy story.
They found that fight in the mid lane. When Dignitas had Soligo and Lorlo split pushing, they immediately engaged. Even though Kalista did have flash, they had the TP ward behind it, so they knew they would have a numbers advantage way before Dignitas could respond. And now it looks like they're going to go after Lorlo in the bot side. 3 members down here with the Baron. That's a turret at least.
Yeah, Lorlo actually can't defend this, and Digga a little slow to respond. They were trying to counter push mid. That's not enough to stop the onslaught of Baron up TSM. Currently knocking on your door. TSM won't finish off the inhibitor though. That's good news for Dignitas. They rally fast enough to prevent that from happening. Hyper and Akaadian also are kind of like having a little staring contest. There's also a dragon up, so teams are falling back to that area. But good vision already for TSM. This is really tough for Dig. Although Hyper has actually been bamboozled by the volley bear.
Sneaky bear, maybe he gets a nice fight, but now he showed and he's not going for a flank.
Takeover in. Leona in as well. JJ already so low. Once he gets in with the ulti, but the Fates Call is going to save the support. Who's going to get the dragon? It is going to be Akaadian. But can they win the fight after that? Haunter still going there. Gets the stun onto Akaadian. Oh, a great team to play there out of Yursan as Hyper. He's able to take down the volley bear.
Well, Dig did not lose an inhibitor. They got the dragon, so despite TSM actually having that Baron, that's a pretty good defense from Dignitas when you're dealing with TSM that was supposed to be the ones being assertive and getting more value out of that major objective. They still have 5,000 gold lead, which is nothing to scoff at, and are winning these team fights fairly handedly, but if you could snatch that next dragon, whether it's with a steal or just a sneak, then Dignitas is going to be in a much better spot, because this fight was way too split. They're clearly prioritizing the dragon, as even Hyper splashing in to try to steal it, but They trade their lives for the objective and the chance to use the Ocean Soul to win this game.
Well, TSM, as you said, only getting 1 kill there. Not the maximum they would have liked there. As Baron is now well worn off. Back up in a minute 30 though, so the objective not too far away. 2 Jakes for Dig is something to play for, but feeling a little rough to weather the storm. You're down almost 5,000 gold at this point. Got 3 items approaching on Akali, 3 items approaching on Kalista. Oliver's going the Cool Zhonya's build. It was nice to see from Cadian. Obviously something that's making the rounds in the world now, and in solo queue, I believe, as well.
Yeah, it's all right. I was really on board this train. I really was. But then when it got cool and everybody was going for it, I started to have my doubts. There has to be something about this. Something smells fishy. And he just doesn't have a lot of HP for it. I think that's the big difference, in that by prioritizing the armor, the ability power, you are getting a lot squishier. So I've seen builds that just go Randuins instead, and well, that can end up being just as good of a tank item without having to rely on the stasis to put you in necessarily a troubling position, since half the time he's just soaking up so much damage so quickly that just using a stopwatch doesn't actually put you in a position to use another set of rotations, spell rotations. You're just buying time for your team to run away while you stand there and die.
I think in this kind of instance, it definitely is tough, but we'll see if Dignitas can find some more favorable fights. You know, buying time for Akali, pretty good. Deligo is going to be on the way to level 16. Not sure how close he is, but, you know, always nice when you rank up your ultimate to the max. Deligo does have enough items to maybe carry this game. TSM, again, just much further ahead across the board. It's really becoming the issue on the Dig side, as Baron is back up, and TSM, once again, we're going to try and take it down.
They've got a lot of deep vision. They've got a control ward on the left side of mid. They've got one even in the base gates of Dignitas, and you can see the vision that Dignitas has to experience here. They have no idea. They have to go in through the mid lane, but the Baron is already being started. They're gonna be so late by the time they realize this. Kalista has to use her Scryer's Bloom. It's already at half, though.
Yeah, this is just not enough vision there for Dig. Great work from TSM. Building it all out. They're actually basically two-manning it. There's the Scryer's Bloom, but it's far too late. TSM will now collapse on the objective to make sure they can get it. A little bit low here for Hyper and Haunter, but they are going to get the Baron. And Haunter's actually just going to get out of there. Hyper's going to get out as well. Dignitas, just nothing they can do. Really nice take there for TSM, setting that up.
They had Soligo in the side lanes with the TP available, but since that lack of vision translates to lack of places to teleport, Soligo is in no shape to actually look for a fight. And so now their chances have to rely on either this dragon if they want to take this fight, or a TP fight. What they can do, though, is just by giving up the dragon and by TSM taking that objective in order to make sure that Dignitas doesn't get the Ocean Soul, they can actually make sure that this Baron doesn't get a lot of push going and doesn't actually crack their base, which is what they're really interested in. As long as the base stays with the inhibitors intact, TSM will have a harder time making sure that they can close the game at the current state.
All right, well, TSM with the Baron are going to try and knock down as many towers as possible. Obviously, looking to do damage. Didn't even get the inhib last time they had it, although they did crack the bottom side, so plenty of room here to try and make space for themselves. Mid lane tier 2 should be an eventuality. So Ligo is trying to run interference there on the top side, getting the way pushed out. It's pretty annoying, although Haunter is taking a detour to make sure he can solo the objective. Apparently he's the jungler now, doing a mighty fine job, if I might say so myself.
TP's coming from Soligo, so Dignitas wants to fight. It will be spotted, though. How does TSM react?
All right, with TSM are in there, Yosun's instantly going in for the fight. Ezreal ulti out. Good chunk of damage there onto Lord already. Bait score popped already, but JJ not that safe. Again, Xenoblade follows it, and Cody just going to get that kill. Now the Viego is becoming a Galio's takeover, dove in with the ulti. Haunter looking to try and close the gap. Spawn is the target. Charges up the stun, finds it there after the flash, and Cody gets a snipe as TSM is winning on every single front. Soligo, he's getting completely surrounded. Xenoblade doesn't connect. Ulti out of Saligo is going to try and keep him safe, but he's revealed he is not going to be able to peel for himself. No, he is, as Cody back over the top, but the flash is forced out of Saligo. I think Akali is going to be okay, but the rest of it, not so much.
Yeah, it goes in the base. He TP'd down here for the inhibitor, and is going to go for this turret. Akaadian can't defend this.
Doing what he can. Haunter already getting one. Now the team is in here. Takeover joining in for the 2v2. Now 3v2 as Saligo goes back to base. Haunter and Takeover going to have to back off here.
TSM wins that really hard. The second they saw the TP and there were members of Dignitas in range to engage, they pulled the trigger. They don't allow Soligo to cut the distance and participate in the fight. So they had that numbers advantage the whole way through. They now get the dragon, they get the inhibitor. It's not enough to crack the base, but it is enough, or rather to just make sure that their base is cracked to the point where they're gonna be able to march and win so easily the next fight. But they have extended the goal lead. It is now 8,000. They're continuing to drive home the advantage, and you can see it in the itemization. It is already 3 to 4 items completed on TSM. They pull the trigger right away. A good equalizer that hits Lee Sin and Kalista. And when Kalista's just not dealing damage to the frontliners, not dealing damage to anybody, it's just not going to happen for Dignitas, because Lorlo and Soligo are just missing from the fight. The other two damage dealers are entirely MIA. With Kalista dead, they have to turn tails. Soligo tries to be a hero here, trying to go after Cody's son, but he already is lacking so much damage. It really was not enough. We don't even know if a full combo would have actually killed Cody. He's so strong at this stage, already has a ton of HP from the Mythic passive, and has a Maw of Malmortius. It isn't just a Frozen Heart. He's got MR.
Alright, well, TSM knocking on the door here of Dignitas' base. But that is Lola with a deep TP. We're going to try and flank somebody. Can you find the Ezreal? It's tricky, but it's not impossible. Lola looking for it. Finds Cody with a kick. That's a beautiful combo, but Cody buffers the shift. Stasis is out. Akaadian diving in. Knows Dignitas springing to life, but the equalizer is just too good. Haunter again going to get a kill now, coming back into the fight as Galio gets the reset down. TSM just too far ahead. Saligo about to be burnt to a crisp by the rest of the side as Rumble looking for the kill. It's a Zenith blade that seals it at the end of it all. And Lolo, the one that started the play, is the only one left alive.
They really tried. They had another TP to make another flank play, and they catch the Ezreal, but there's even more defensive tools on him now. He had the Hourglass on top of the ability to just tank it. Dignitas is on their last legs here. 1v4. We've seen a 1v5 today, but this one just does not look close to the earlier win from Darshan. TSM won't try to end it, though. They're going for another inhib.
I mean, timers are a little low, so I can respect it. TSM playing the percentages here. Lola going to be the next target. Shield pops up, does have to flash, shows TSM. We'll be able to finish off this. Indeed, Haunter will stay to make sure it happens. Now the squad's really reinforced. The equalizer cuts him off. Nice head for Hyper to disengage. Haunter maybe going to give his life here, but he gets out over the wall with the ulti. Lolo's going to chase him, but I don't know if Lolo can win a 1v1, and that's what he's currently in, as Haunter does get revealed with the Q, but the rest of TSM are getting out of there. Hyper now going to get flanked up. Yosan, oh my god, dead instantly from Akali. Hyper going to die as well. Shut down there for Akaadian. Dignitas still with some life crumbs.
Really good timing. Baron.
Oh,
no!
Haunter! Oh, never mind. Haunter. He didn't have TP. He just stuck around. Just stuck around and hit the Nexus.
Haunter. Oh, that was perfect timing. Perfect timing. Dignitas thought they had a chance back. The Baron was going to be up. They could have taken it, but nuh-uh. DSM just ends it right there.
I mean, there's like 3 waves of supers now coming in the inhibs. It's not good for Dig, but it did seem like, maybe there was a couple plays left, but also just going to put an end to that. So watch a couple of the highlights here from this game.
This was where Soligo was starting to get fed. More kills going over to the Akali, and we started to get worried because we know what these picks can do when they start to get gold, but once TSM got the pick in the mid lane on to spawn, they turned to the Baron, which is the fight we're currently seeing, and then the game got out of hand because they got not only the members that were trying to defend this, but then JJ and Spawn joined the mix. They wanted to see if they could have a piece of the action, but Diego with his resets turning into a Kali had a really sick display that then just took those 2 extra kills, and it ended up in a clean ace.
And then this one here again. Yosan definitely impressed me over these 2 games as well. Very accurate with the skill shots, very aggressive on both the Nautilus and the Leona games he showed in this series. But Haunter, I think he's having a field day on Viego today. Look at this. Just diving in onto poor spawn and taking over his body.
He looks like he's having fun. He's having fun. He's really enjoying that pick. So it's something he can blind, so we might get to see much more of it. And here where they actually got the kick on Cody, he's just so tanky. I love the itemization choice that he made after the Frozen Heart, just going with magic resistance to stay alive, to make sure that, hey, if they're actually going to have a single threat that I have to worry about in Solico, I'm never going to give them the chance to one-shot me. And that's what happened. I want to see if we can actually keep this replay straight. Nope, we won't see how Hanser snuck his way into the base to end the game, but we know that he did it. We know how
it was. Yeah, it was funny. I don't know what happened, but it was great. Oh, sorry, just slapping down the Nexus there after Dignitas tried to rally. Again, definitely a position where TSM were probably going to take the game anyway. And in general, should be relatively happy with their games. I think even though they did fall behind a little bit in both of them, Game 1 was beautiful with how they ended it with those team fights. Game 2, definitely a bit more back and forth, but TSM clearly very confident in their team fighting, which is pretty impressive for a team that is also swapping out their mid laner sometimes, right? Takeover's been playing this week and last week, but Sword was playing the 2 weeks prior to that, which can be tough, you know, to kind of get the team together and on the same page. But oddly, kind of like their like bigger brother in the LCS, seems like they're just leaning on the TSM Teamfight Classic.
It's the trend that I love that we get between Academy and LCS, is that the teams seem to have some similarities in whether the styles or even the champions that they pick. And TSM is doing a really good job in the Academy circuit, just making sure that they prioritize a strength that currently works for them, because they're playing to that. They're really not pushing their advantage in the early game. They're just farming away. They know where they need to strike. And when it happens, well, they're just winning flat out. They know those moments, and they're all backing it up. That engage in the mid lane that really got the ball rolling for them, they all were following that call the second it was made. And that's the kind of thing you want to see. If you're going to be a team that focuses on team fights, make sure that everybody is on board. And TSM Academy currently has that.
Yeah, I will say, you know, for me, someone who hasn't watched as much Academy this year and certainly this summer, I'm very impressed with the newer players on TSM Academy, right? I think Takeover super good, and it's really interesting to see how he and Sword kind of happens. But Yosan and Hyper actually also playing really well in both those games as well. And speaking of, it's now time for our Verizon post-game interview. We have Takeover joining us on the broadcast. Takeover, how's it feeling?
Hi. Feels good. Yeah. Hello.
Now, hello. Yes. How has it
Okay,
been?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. You've gotten a few games in now. It seems like you're playing this week. Can we expect to see more from you? What's going on with the mid lane situation at TSM?
Yeah, so we're playing like half, 50-50 sharing, I guess. So I'm playing like more now because I was in Korea and I couldn't come here in the beginning of Split because of visa. But after like I do my time of the half, like we'll go back to doing 50-50, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if I should have said that, but yeah.
That's fine. I'm curious, what about your matchup, actually? Because Akali has been pretty terrifying against in basically everywhere. Are you comfortable as Renekton here, or do you not really mind? Is Akali a champion you feel pretty comfortable handling?
Yeah, I mean, I played the laning phase pretty badly, but I guess my team carried me, and Akali couldn't really do anything, so yeah, Renekton's pretty good.
Now, what do you think your strengths as a team thus far have been? Because it seems to us that it's team fighting, but clearly there has to be more like communication or something else going on inside the team that's allowing you to play these fights out this way.
I think like Yersan and Hansa are just really impulsive. So when they see an angle, they'll just go for it, and we just take those fights, and like for some reason we win. So I guess Yersan and Hans are just good with their shot calling with Cody.
Nice.
And then for me, obviously, you said, didn't get to play with the team earlier on, coming from Korea, getting a visa sorted out. Now that you're here and you've had a couple games and some practice with the team, what's the experience been like? Just kind of joining TSM as a six-man?
It's pretty fun, I guess. Like, since this is my first time living in like a team in a facility and all that stuff, I guess it's a good experience. And yes, it's a good time overall.
That's awesome. We'll take over. That's all the time we have today. But thank you so much for joining us. Clearly, you have a bright future ahead of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank
Okay,
you.
see you.
Wow,
fun.
Yeah, really fun. It's cool. Like, obviously, like we'll see as things roll on what happens between Sword and Takeover. But both, players are on people's radar certainly as young talents. Both very young, I believe, both 18. So TSM like clearly doing their homework. Scrounging around trying to find some players they can develop. I know Sword was one they had invested in a little earlier. Takeover, another player they clearly have highlighted they wanted to bring over. Cool to like see in general teams invest in talent everywhere and just try and train them up, right? Because at worst they become really good and are good enough to go in an LCS team and you can sell them. In the best case scenario is that they're like the best player ever and you put them on your LCS team and they smurf you. So it's really nice in general to see teams developing talent.
Yeah, and you can also train the ability to develop talent, right? Not only is it a matter of you actually finding the talent, but you get to train your abilities as a team to find and scout. And so I think that's an area that's often underrated in teams. It's all about, yes, can we find the right talent, but what about the people that have to grow the talent? What about the pipeline where they have to go through? So the more they do it, the more reps they can put in and the better results they'll see.
Yeah, I've definitely seen more of that, but we also have more Academy, one more series to round out today. So don't go too far because our final series of Academy is coming right up.